Welcome back to the Own It Show. I am your host and high holistic. Let me try that again. I am your holistic high performance coach and conscious entrepreneur, Heather Lee Chapman, and we are here to inspire, educate, and serve, and always bringing you special guests. So we have Amy Hager in the house today. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm so glad to be sharing on your Zone of Genius because I think your approach is so unique. So, guys, I'll share you a little bit more about Amy. So, Amy is a true marketer and community builder at heart and co founder on the Content Personality Club. Uses her years of experience and expertise to help service-based business owners around the world grow businesses they love at Joyful Business Revolution. Amy's yoga instructor says she has lived 12 lives already because she has had so many experiences. She's raced cars, which we're going to hear about, been on a radio DJ, built sales and marketing teams. One was for a standardized construction contracts coalition, worked at a group home to support adults with mental illness, led a B&B association, started a youth group, been a military spouse, just to name a few. Her experiences help her relate and apply strategies across many different industries by utilizing her background in marketing, communications, engagement, community development, and organizational growth. When the cat mom isn't helping clients with their mission-driven marketing, she can be found experience her joy while exploring her own backyard, hanging out on her boat, visiting as many wineries as possible, and or traveling the world. So thank you so much for being here, Amy.
Yeah, I'm really excited to dive in and explore with you today.
And we are going to be talking about all on how to own your content creation style. So Amy's got a really unique approach that we're going to dive into today. And I know you guys are going to just love this because I know as business owners, we built our business to do more of what we love and not be obligated to do things that we don't love. And she's going to talk about that and how you can own your content style in your business doing what you love. But first, let's hear a little bit more about your entrepreneur journey, that car racing, and then we'll ask for a piece of advice for our business listeners.
Yeah, so where I think my journey really started is when I was 9 racing go-karts. I had to go around my town and it was a small town in northern Iowa in the US, and asked business owners to give me money for things like gas and tires and a helmet. And where I really found what worked well for me to build community was, one, to make sure that I was always available and open, and two, always willing to connect with somebody, because you just never know where that relationship's going to go. That curiosity has taken me a real long way in life. And so as I've gone through my journey, retired from racing, had a radio career because of the racing. The youth group also was started because of the racing, and they actually just celebrated their 25th anniversary a couple of days ago. So
Congrats.
yeah, it's kind of cool to think of something that's living, even though I don't live in that town anymore, to live that much longer past me being there and to still provide a great thing in the community. I think that that's part of sometimes what we do in our entrepreneurial journey. We want to be able to make those bigger impacts on people's lives long after we're gone, whether we just moved across country or we're gone. And so I think when I reflect back, again, I was 9. So when I reflect back really young, but even as I've gotten more into entrepreneurship and helping other businesses start up and being in other organizations, the thing that I constantly have to remind myself of is, if we wanted to be unhappy with our day-to-day choice of what our work is, we could easily just go get a job and just go get paid to do something. And I'm not saying that's a bad choice. For some people, that is the right choice for them. But for us that are choosing entrepreneurship, when things are starting to feel hard or they're starting to feel misaligned or it's not fun anymore, that is a really great time to pause and not push through and ask myself, well, why? Why is it this way? And I think this question has become more on my awareness later in my journey that I really wish I would have known early on, is what would really bring me joy in this moment in my business?
Yeah,
And
I love
sometimes
that.
choosing from that place instead of the I have to mindset, it's amazing how quickly that can shift things for you.
I love that. And that's so important. And that's whether you're a business owner or you're in a career. I've heard a lot of people say, I wasn't happy, but I did it for another 10 years.
Right.
And that, as my mentor, Bob Proctor, would say, whatever you're doing with your life, whatever you're doing right now, you're trading your life for. So I hope it's worth you.
Yeah.
And so when we feel that that joy is missing and what have you in our business, it's time to pivot. It's not time to push through. And I'm a great example of that. Last year, I teach our Quantum Leap Blueprint and our Business Bliss Masterclass. And last year, after doing some reverse engineering, I realized that what I was building wasn't necessarily in alignment with my new version of where I was going. And I could have stayed
Yeah.
and keep building and been unhappy. And instead, I pivoted. And yes, it took time. And yes, it took building a new team. And yes, it took building a new program and rebuilding the branding and doing all the things. And I wouldn't trade it for anything else. And I'm so grateful that I did, because we're in a new place to scale and serve now that we wouldn't have been able to a year before. That is so much more in alignment with the quality of life I'm looking for. And that is when I took a moment to pause. So instead of adding anything else in, I looked at what needs to be removed.
Yeah.
And then what can I do to add more joy back in? And I love talking and I love meeting people. So we
Yeah.
created a second podcast. And we upped the amount of podcasts we do. Now we do 2 to 4 a week instead of 2 a month. And so I got rid of things that weren't necessarily bringing me joy. I brought in more things that are, and I've revamped my whole business, my whole calendar,
Right.
my whole schedule. And I'm so grateful for that, because I built this business so I can do what I love and on my terms and be happy and fulfilled, not feel, as you said, like obligated to do what I have to. And of course, there's things in the business we're always going to have to do and
Right.
keep our
Exactly. It's not
promises.
all rainbow and unicorns.
I mean, I'd love it to be. There's times we have to keep our promises to ourselves to do the things,
Yeah.
even though we don't feel like doing them. But when we're looking at the big picture, we do want to put that pause in. And
Right.
also, for an energetic reason, we understand that we have the physical and the metaphysical. And the metaphysical is the energy that we're in and the frequency that we're in and our point of attraction. And if we are not in joy, then we cannot attract more things to be joyful about. So
Yeah.
do always take that pause and make sure that you're still loving what you're doing and that it's bringing you joy. What a great piece of advice.
Yeah. Thank you. And again, I think it's just more and more on my awareness as I've gone through this journey. So if you are just starting out, give yourself that permission to lead with joy and take the pause instead of the push.
I love it. I love it, love it, love it. All right, so let's dive into the tips and tricks on your zone of genius. So you've got 6 pieces of messaging ecosystem and how to create content utilizing your content personality type, which is something really, I think, is brilliant and will help you bring more joy into your business. I'm going to pass it off to you and let's hear more about it.
Well, so I think before we dive into the 6 pieces of the messaging ecosystem, let's talk about the content personality first. So what I really believe and what we really believe is that there's 5 content personality types, and you're only one of them, and you should only be marketing using one of them. So hold on to your seat. Here they are. First, live in person. Then it's visual, video, audio, and written. And so when you sit and reflect on all of the marketing activities that you're doing, are you doing one within each of these categories? Maybe a couple of the categories? Usually people are within 2 to 3 or all 5 of the categories and not just one. And so I think when we really tap into our content personality type, we create from that type, just like you were saying, Heather, we're in the right energetic vibe to then attract people to work with us so they can they like us, they trust us, and they really get to know us that way. And so when you're taking the content personality quiz, lead with your heart. You can't answer the questions wrong. And then when you get your results, be open to exploring. And some people, they get results that they feel like absolutely aren't aligned. And I'm going to tell you a story about the creator of the content personality quiz, Shannon Hernandez. She's my business partner, so I can't stake claim to this genius idea, but I am definitely a super user of it. And when she first created the quiz, she's an introvert. She's a former teacher. And she really, really thought she was a written content personality type. She had already written a book. She was teaching people blog writing at the time. And when she took the quiz, she kept getting live in person. And this is back in the day before the internet. She'd crumple up the piece of paper that she answered her quiz answers on and would literally throw it across the room. And so she continued to focus on writing for the first 3 to 5 years of her business. When she finally let the writing go and really tapped into her live in-person content personality type, that's where her business went to that $400,000 a year business. And this was all by herself. She was stuck at the 250. She was able to go for all on her own by really tapping into creating experiences where people could experience her live in person. So it was either speaking on stages, doing workshops, teaching, things along those lines. And writing is still a passion of hers. She's written a second book since. How she wrote that book is a little bit different than I think how any written content personality type would write a book. But again, tapping into that live in-person content type. And so when we are able to really tap into the type that we're supposed to be in and energetically align with that, let the rest go. I'm curious what will happen with your marketing and with your flow. And hopefully then it doesn't feel like a chore anymore. And, I'm a live in-person content personality type too. And I used to work for a newspaper. I loved doing the interviews. I loved going out and talking to the people, right? And then I'd have to come back to my computer and write the story. I was always the reporter who had their story turning in late or like barely on deadline, because sitting there typing it out was just miserable to me. Writing the actual article was not my jam. And so I've had to forgive that part of myself and just know that, it's writing, yes, is not my forte. I don't know how many past boss I've had tell me, you should probably take some writing classes. You need to be better at it. And I don't think we need to be better at any of them. We can leverage the one that we're really, really good at, that we energetically align with. So once you've gotten over kind of knowing your content personality type, once you've uncovered that and fully embraced it, I think it's a great chance for you to ask yourself, am I creating in the wrong type? If so, how can I create in the type that I'm most aligned with, that I got answered with on the quiz? And again, just Google content personality quiz, or it is like Heather said, there is a link to the quiz in the comments or the description here. And for creating content going forward, where do you go from here? And what kind of content should we be creating? That's where our messaging ecosystem comes into play, okay?
Love it.
And so when we think about our messaging ecosystem, there's 5 content personality types. Again, live in person, written, video, visual, audio. There's 6 pieces of messaging ecosystem that we should be utilizing. So our first piece is your mission-driven content. And when you think about this content, this is really growing your community and really talking about your why and what makes you tick and what makes you passionate about what you're doing. The second piece of content is connection content. And this is really going to show who you are, especially for solo entrepreneurs, who you are as a person. If you are working for an organization, the connection content is really going to show who you are as an organization. Sometimes it's the faces of the employees behind the organization. Sometimes it's the volunteers behind the organization. So that connection content really relies on connecting to a human or multiple humans, again, if you're within an organization. Our third piece in the messaging ecosystem is to really share your stance. And so this is really the thoughts about the industry that you're in. And so one of the share your stance content that I use is, I really believe organic marketing and messaging needs to come from your heart and soul. You can't outsource that. You can't pay someone to do your marketing and your messaging for you. And I also believe buying Facebook ads or Google ads is never going to work unless you've done that fundamental messaging work first. And so those are two things that I really stand for in my community and when I'm speaking. And I know there's plenty of people out there who do ads and they make a great living off of it. I know there's plenty of people out there who really hire somebody and they find somebody that works really great for them and it actually ends up being okay for them. But that's not what I believe, and that's not the truth that I feel I want to tell, and it's not the life that I feel I want to live. So sharing your stance about the thoughts in your industry is our third piece of content. Moving on to the fourth piece, thought reversal content. This is really where you're changing the ideas of what your readers think. And so again, it could be changing the idea of you should start with buying ads first instead of organic marketing, and really changing the idea of buying ads instead of investing in a coach to coach you through messaging so that you have the skill set and you can continue to use it. So really changing the thoughts of our members. And the fifth piece is going to be thought leader content. So you really want to share your expertise. And this is a great example of thought leader content, Heather. You're allowing me to come here and share my expertise. And that's what I love about podcasts and shows like this is where I thrive in thought leader content. And then usually the sixth piece of content in the messaging ecosystem is your direct offer content. So you're sharing your offer, your event, if you have a certification program or something along those lines. And so when you have all six of those pieces of content, plus you're utilizing your content personality type to create those pieces of content, look out. I think that's where the magic happens with your marketing, and you can feel more in flow and not feel like it's a chore and embrace the fun in it. And so I'm kind of curious, Heather, when I rattle off all six, is there a piece of the messaging ecosystem that you feel that you do really, really well?
So my stance.
Yeah.
I'm always like a stand for we are a whole being,
Yeah.
mind, body, soul, and spirit. And it is essential that we treat ourselves like a whole, and that is a non-negotiable for me. And that
Mm,
I hold that stance, whether you're treating your business like a whole, you can't just market, you have to do sales. There's the whole part of the business, and then treating ourselves like a whole. So a holistic perspective, I definitely would say like the stance is where I stand my strongest. And then the second would be in like building that rapport. So sharing more about me and my why. I think I do a lot of why I do this. And
yeah.
I share a lot of that because that's important to me.
Yeah. Is there one that you feel a little weaker at?
So I know I'm not as consistent as it would benefit me to share my offer. So
Mhm.
I also working on improving that instead of just sharing when we have events, getting better at regularly presenting the offer so that it's seen more regularly. So that number six would be a place where I think I can definitely strengthen.
And I'm not going to lie, usually when I'm talking to people, number six is either their strongest or it's the weakest. So usually when I'm working with someone like you, Heather, where number six is maybe not as strong, what I like to do is look at opportunities that you're already creating, or maybe we could add in just a little bit that would make it more of a direct offer content. And again, you have to have all six. So it's not like I want you to only have direct offer, but having that balance, I think, is really, really key and really, really important. And when we look at all of those pieces, if there's one that you're thriving at and you're like, oh, I'm not doing great at all five of them, the other ones, pick one that seems the most easy and achievable to you to add to your ecosystem.
Love that.
Don't try to build the ecosystem all in one breath. Just take one at a time and add it, and give yourself 90 days. Really, any marketing strategy that you're trying, especially if you're shifting in messaging or bringing in a new piece of ecosystem, trying it for 90 days to get a good feel for it, to get the messaging in alignment, and to really allow yourself to embrace it is a good window. And then feel free to add the next one and then the next one. So then over the course of a year, hopefully you're building out that larger ecosystem, and hopefully you're building it using that content personality type too.
I love that so much. It's so important for us to be able to cover all six of them because each speaks a little bit differently to different
Yeah.
people. And then it really creates a whole picture of who we are and who our business is. And it helps build that rapport and connection, which is really, really important. And then I think a lot of people might avoid the marketing for the reason, like you said, how, you were always handing the written portion in late. It's
Yeah.
because we usually avoid the things that we don't like a lot.
So
So
true.
that's where we want to hire and delegate. As long as we're clear on like our messaging and our branding and what we want portrayed, and we can find someone who's in alignment, I think, to help with that. And even if it's just, I had a really good intern one time who was one of the best at this, and she just loved our podcasts. And
Yeah.
so she loved to go through and pull out snippets.
Yeah.
And she would just like give them to me. And she'd be like, oh, I saw this, I made this. And I'm like, that's amazing. And so then she actually started doing it for us. And I found that as much as I love talking, say making the snippets in the reels and adding all the things,
Right.
my favorite thing to
Yeah.
do. So,
Yeah.
so having somebody help with that is so important. Uh,
Right.
because we want to do what we love and a little bit less of what we don't, and that's where that delegation component can come in. And when you have the right team as you're scaling, it makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
And for me, I second on the organic component, like really making sure that we're doing things as organically as possible, whether it's us or our team, so that we're building the rapport.
Yeah.
I know when I get an automated message, right? And I know usually when a message is from a team member versus the person and it's not in their language or what have you. So I really think building that rapport in neurolinguistics programming, it's actually number one in all things,
Yeah.
in being a good coach, in closing a sale, in getting your clients buy-in. It all starts with rapport building. And I think everything that you taught us today helps with that rapport building. That content, it's like your website and your social media channels these days, they're like the validation. You meet someone in person or you connect with somebody,
Yeah.
and
They're
then
gonna
they're going to
coach you.
go back. Yeah, they're going to go back and watch. And that's the moment they really get to build that know, like, and trust factor and build that rapport through those 6 key pieces of content.
Yeah, exactly. And when you talk about team building, Heather, I just want to touch on this super lightly, but make sure you're having your team or your potential team taking that quiz. The quiz used to be the first entry to interview with me when I was building teams. And so I already knew what my team already was made up of. If I needed, the last time I did this, I needed an audio content personality type. And it was for that standardized construction contract coalition. I'm not a lawyer, y'all. I do not love the law. I kind of like construction, but I do not love the law. And so it was so cool to take a team of non-lawyers who didn't really care about exactly what they were doing, but it was a job, and let us build and create only in our content personality types. And when I really was like giving everybody permission to stay in their content type, no matter what their title was, the CEO was our written person. I was live in person. I was going and speaking on stages about these standardized construction content. And the CEO was always so nervous having me up there because he's like, well, you're not a lawyer. You're not going to be able to answer all of the questions. And that was okay. They still felt entrusted me enough because we connected deeply. And I always said, I will get back to you because I want to make sure I'm talking to our legal counsel and giving you the right answer. And that was always well accepted. But the last person we hired was that audio content personality type. They picked up the phone and they called people. And when we really allowed ourselves to stay in those lanes, we took that business from $750,000 a year to 1.2 million in 18 months.
Amazing.
And it was, again, something we didn't love selling or love involving. It wasn't a passion of any of ours, except maybe the CEO, but really allowing the person that I hired for that audio type, he was selling cell phones at the mall and was like, I hate people. I hate being with people. I'm like, you're a salesperson. How do you hate people? And it was because that face-to-face interaction, but on the phone, he did amazing.
Oh, I love that. So allowing people to stay in their zone of genius
Yeah,
and do more of what they love, because usually we avoid the things that we're not loving,
exactly.
right? And that's the moment we want to ask ourselves, do I need to delegate, hire, or delete that in my business? Because the business is meant for joy. So I love that. So guys, if you're building a team, we know in order to scale, you need to be the CEO visionary, and the one man show only lasts for so long if you want to bring it to a certain level or have more time back. Um, and so building a team as you go to do that, I think that's so important. Make sure that they do this quiz, guys. That quiz is in the description and the links there, because imagine if they loved what they did, how much more enthusiasm they would show up with every single day, and how they would get things probably in early. That first video, the intern had just made for me because she loved it and she loved making reels. And then I was like, would you like to do that for us? She's like, yes, I would. I was like, take that on then. Right.
Right.
And then it wasn't a job for her because she loved watching them and learning. And then she loved making reels. And that was her zone of genius.
That's so
And
good.
I am going to take that piece of advice. I am going to have all future team members. My copywriter, obviously, she likes copy, so she's doing great for us.
That's such a
But
great.
everyone else going forward, we're going to have them fill that out because we want to make sure that they're also enjoying their job.
Right, exactly. Like when you can energetically show up in your role at any organization, it's so much better than again forcing like that round peg into a square hole.
Not so much fun.
No.
Oh, I love that. Amazing. And what is your last piece of advice you'd like to share with our listeners today?
I would say then once you've gone through, you know, your content personality type, one of the five, you're working on your messaging ecosystem with those six pieces. The last piece of advice that I would have is as you're pausing, we talked about this at the beginning of the episode, and evaluating, look at what's going well and what's actually working. Ask yourself, how can I make it 10% better?
Hmm.
And when you ask yourself on what's working well, how can we make it better? It's a lot easier to let go of the things that aren't working.
Oh, I love that. And it's so important to let go of the things that aren't working because we built our business so that we can do more of what we love. So that is essential. And actually, I just taught in our Quantum Leap Blueprint Masterclass. It's our goal plan, do review, quarterly assessment where we help ourselves get rid of, delegate, or delete, which no longer works in the business, and multiply what does.
Mm,
And so I love that. And then I have my clients go through what we call white glove servicing everything. So the things that you love and you're multiplying, before we multiply, we would white glove service. So we would go in and improve the SOPs, improve all standard operations and procedures, so that it is a seamless experience on the front end and on the back end for our clients and community. And so I love that. So as you're going to multiply what you do, maybe you want to white glove service it.
yeah.
And it's part of my habit that I just am on autopilot all the time. That could be better. That could be better. That could be better. I'm not sure where it comes from. But I do it all the time. In every business I go into and every client that I look at, my brain just automatically looks, how could we make this like more profitable?
Right.
How could we make this more seamless? And how could we leave the customer feeling better than how we found them already, so that it's a no-brainer for them to stay, to renew, and to refer, and so that their experience is as magical as we want it to be.
Yeah.
So I love that. I think that's so important. Let's get rid of the stuff that doesn't bring us joy in our business.
Yeah.
Let's multiply what does, and then let's give it white glove service so that we can really leave that impression of increase with those people we came here to, leave that impact and leave that legacy that we're meant to, just like you did with that youth group so long ago.
Yeah. Exactly. I love it.
Love it. I love it. So guys, make sure you click on that link right now. I'm so curious to hear about what your personality quiz told you. So drop that in the comments below. Come back and let us know. And make sure, if you want to know any more, where can they learn a little bit more about you?
Yeah. So when you go to joyfulbusinessrevolution.com, that's our website. You'll see Shannon and I. When you take the quiz, I also get your answers. I will probably reach out because I'm as equally as curious. Like, are you surprised by your answer? Are you actually tapping into that now, or are you doing something completely different? And so I love to have conversations with people once they uncover this piece, because again, it can be shocking, it cannot be, but it's always great to talk through just a little bit. And so joyfulbusinessrevolution.com is the website to go through to really check out where the quiz is and what we're doing in this world.
Joyfulbusinessrevolution.com. I love the name, by the way, like so brilliant. We're so in alignment. It's so lovely. So
Yeah.
guys, click on that link. Make sure you check it out. Reach out to Amy. Let's hear about your results. So come back and drop it in the comments. And just thank you so much for what you do, for helping people bring more joy into their lives and their businesses, and also as you do as a yoga practitioner. I know you're bringing so much joy into this world and leaving a positive impact. So thank you so very much, and thank you for your wisdom today, Amy.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Absolutely my pleasure. Always. Always fun connecting with incredible conscious entrepreneurs on the show here. So thank you to our listeners for tuning in and for your time and energy. I know you can spend it anywhere, and you chose to spend it with us. So thank you so much. And remember, stay happy, healthy, wealthy. Expect magic and miracles. And what is the best that can happen? We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.
Bye.